Tony Hawkins has got a podcast. I hope he's better at this than he is washing the kit because he was fucking useless.
Right, welcome to episode 20. Accrington Stanley, Wimbledon and Fisher gone to Swansea. That's on my agenda, fellas. What do you think?
Well, if it's on your agenda, it's on my agenda. That's all I can say.
When I say Accrington Stanley, was any of us there? Because I wasn't.
I wasn't, no.
Shaking your head on a podcast doesn't work. We got to use words. Anyone at Accrington Stanley?
I was debating to be fair, me and Dan had intentions of going because we really needed to tick it off.
You know what? I was thinking about you on Saturday. I was thinking about you because the weather was terrible, wasn't it? Absolutely hoofing it down all day. But when you looked at the weather up in Accrington Stanley, it was all sunny blue skies, wasn't it? I just thought, oh no. But it's a long way to go, wasn't it? What was it? 1-1, wasn't it? They had a man sent off. Then apparently they just stuck the 9 outfield players behind, in their 18-yard box, and that was it. We couldn't seem to find a way through it, could we? I was listening to it on the radio. It's very frustrating, it really was. But at least looking on the bright side, I didn't go. So there you go. Trying to pick.
It says a lot. It does say a lot. I've watched the extended highlights, so I've got a little bit of an idea of what happened. And they're always sort of 10 minutes. Like sometimes they stretch it out to all sorts of things. But the Accrington game, there was 7 minutes for the first half and 3 minutes for the second half, which I think sort of explains quite a lot about the game. So after the red card, and I can't remember if there was a chance after that or not, nothing really happened. As you say, they just stick 9 men behind the ball, and we can't break them down. And it's a thing that's, I've said it before. I'll end up saying it a lot. It keeps happening, and it's getting a bit worrying. And I've just done some quick research just as we were setting up. So I think it's 4 league games this season where we've had a red card go in our favour in the first half. We had Gillingham away where we scored 4 goals after it. We've had Wickham, where we scored from the penalty and then couldn't break them down further. Then we've had, who was it? Accrington, and now AFC last night. So that's 2 games where we've not been able to score after the red card in the first half. 3, if you discount the fact that we scored the penalty against Wickham.
Was that a straight red or was it 2 yellows on Saturday?
Saturday it was a straight red, and I can see why a red card was given, actually, because it was like Accrington fans were a bit it
was against
up in arms about it.
Daniel Harvey, because he became a pantomime villain, didn't he, after every time he knew he was on the ball, because all you could hear on the radio was them booing him for having the temerity to be tackled by someone. So,
so watching it back,
bollocks.
Yeah, we're watching it back. It's literally he's got studs.
Oh, he hit him in the nuts, didn't he?
Yeah,
that's right.
Right into the area that nobody wants to be kicked by the studs. And as I was watching that, I'm just thinking, if that connects with his knee or his leg or something and he's planted in the ground, that's a leg breaker. To me, it did look really bad. Maybe it was like it looked better actually in the stands or something, but from the highlights, from where the camera is, it genuinely looked really, really bad.
To be fair to the lads, I'm watching it now. I've seen it a good few times. I think it is a red card, but I don't think it's malicious. I don't think he's actually actively gone to do that. I think he's tried to body check, but because Harvey's sort of come forward that little bit, it's gone completely wrong. I think I can understand why Accrington fans are annoyed, because it is, in my opinion, quite clearly an accident. But it is, as you said, if that was hitting a horrible area, like his standing foot had been planted in the ground and it had connected with his kneecap or something, then that's his, that's 20 months of football out for that boy. Do you know what I mean? So it's reckless, but I don't think it's intentional. So it's hard to describe. It's definitely a red, but I don't think he's actively intended to do what he did.
I guess to play Dirk Advocaat, I've not played him for ages, getting a point away, but when you think that they were down to 10 men and it's Accrington Stanley, and no disrespect to them, but we really should be beating teams like that. I know they've had, they're not what we seen last night, let's be honest, but they don't pull any trees up, do they, Accrington Stanley, to be quite honest. We should really have it in enough, and especially when they go down to 10 to beat them, but hey, we didn't beat them, what can you do,
I'd also say that it's a better point now than it was before we played AFC, because I was concerned, not less so the fact that we were playing AFC at home. I was more concerned about the fact that our home form of late hasn't been particularly, flattering. So I was concerned that having a game like that, where again, as I touched on many occasions recently, there was a game there to be won, but I wasn't there, so I can't be too critical. But looking at it on Wednesday night after a Tuesday night home win, a point away from home, with a home game sandwiched in between another away game at Pompey on Saturday, I don't think it's the worst result in the world. I really don't. Looking back at it, I was quite annoyed in theory at the time, but because I never listened to or watched the game, it's hard to gauge sort of what had happened. It's easy to look at a match report and come up with strange conclusions. More on that later. But I couldn't really find myself space to get annoyed about it, to be honest. And it looks better now, as I said.
Watching the actual game, or watching the highlights, it's a really poor, the goal that we conceded, it's really poor. From giving away the free kick, it was a stupid tackle or push or whatever it was. And then we've given the bloke a free header on the edge of the box, and the goalkeeper should have done far better as well. So from that point of view, it's disappointing that we've conceded. And then it's just disappointing again that we didn't capitalise on having the extra man. When if we're a possession team, I don't know, in theory, you should be stretching the play, you should be making them run a lot, you should be tiring them out, and then sort of capitalising on that, especially in the last 15, 20 minutes or something when they're absolutely shattered. But we just don't seem to be doing that when we have the extra man for so long, which has happened quite a lot this season. Did you say the goalkeeper was at fault for? I believe it was there was many people that were probably at fault for their goal, but the main one that I'm going to talk about now probably is the bloke that's just fucked off to Wales.
I'm just going to say, do you know what we need? A new goalkeeper then, perhaps. That might be what we need. Do you want to talk about that now? Or,
we've got one already in. We've got one already in the building.
I mean, none of us were at Accrington Stanley, so that's, it was one of our things when we did this podcast that we wouldn't really talk about a game that we weren't at. So I think that, unless there's anything else you want to say about it, I'm quite happy to just say, yeah, a point on the road, fair enough. I don't know if you want to add to that or whatever. Shaking of heads again.
Point. It's good in hindsight.
It is really. Right, what do you want to do? Do you want to talk about Swansea or do you want to talk about last night? I think we should save last night to the end, personally. A little bit of a treat for everyone.
I think going chronologically is probably a good idea.
Okie doke. Right. I'm not happy about that, to be quite honest. I'm not. People have got the wrong end of the stick where I'm concerned with this. I couldn't really care less if he goes. I mean, I say good luck to the fella. I genuinely not saying this with the benefit of hindsight, but I always thought Nichols was a better keeper. But, you're playing to the style that the Snake wanted to play, so, and Manning's kind of carrying that on a bit. But I genuinely thought Lee Nichols was a better keeper. I don't care, really, that he's gone. I say good luck to the fella. He's an alright keeper. It's where he's gone, it's the timing, and it's who's involved in it. That's my problem with the whole thing, really. I think a lot of it's the timing, really, because it's not the first time that they've done that to us this season, is it, to be quite honest? So, there, I've said my piece, so there you go.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I said on half-time and before the game yesterday, which, is that going to be a separate pod, or are you going to put it in?
Well, yeah, Alby has done a whole load of interviews at the AFC game last night, and I've decided that I'm going to put them out as a special bonus pod this week, so feel free to talk about, and then people can listen to it twice, can't they? So
yeah, that's fine. But yeah, I can't remember what I said, but basically my thoughts on it are, even in the summer when Martin left, I thought Fisher would probably be one of the better players that would probably suit him and what he wants to do. So I get the move from their perspective. I get the move from Fisher's perspective. I get the move from our perspective in a sense that it's quite a lot of money. It's quite a lot of money for a keeper that, when you actually look at the stats and you try and look at it sort of a bit, I don't know if unobjectively is the right word, but yeah, he's a decent but relatively average League One goalkeeper. I don't think he's probably good enough to be a top Championship keeper yet. He is still young, bear in mind, though. He's only, 23 years old or something. So, yeah, I get it from that point of view. But, as you've said, John, the timing of it just stinks. And I don't know who to blame for it, really, because Swansea need a goalkeeper. Peterborough, they probably tried to force the loan move of the Swansea keeper that's gone there. So then that's maybe forced our hand, because maybe in the negotiations it's like, well, if you do it now, we'll give you this amount now and we'll do this in add-ons. But if you do it a little bit later, we'll change it a little bit. So I don't know what happened in negotiations. All I can say is any other game than last night.
Yeah, that's another issue to take. I
wouldn't have minded Franco coming in. If it was like a Fleetwood at home or like a Cambridge at home or something like that, I'd have been absolutely fine with it. And with hindsight, I probably shouldn't have even thought that anyway, because I thought Franco had a pretty decent game last night. But going into it, considering we only had one goalkeeper and he'd only played a total of 5 professional games, I wasn't happy with the timing. Lots of people weren't happy with the timing. Some people were going a bit overboard with it, but
there was a lot of conspiracy theories, wasn't there? The fact that, he had a terrible game on on Saturday at Accrington Stanley. But you think, well, I mean, I don't think, you've just said it. You've not said he's not good enough for the Championship, but I genuinely don't think he's good enough for the Championship. But having said that, if someone had said, is Lee Nichols a Championship goalkeeper, I would have said no. So that shows you what I know and why I'm sat here once again talking into a computer screen on a Wednesday night. So, he's not... He's alright. I'm not going to be one of those blokes that turned around, no, I never liked him. I thought he was alright. He was prone to it. Got a mistake in him. He really has. But like you say, he's 23. Perhaps if he goes there, it'll be the making of him, because, Nichols is absolutely flying in the Championship, isn't it? So maybe, just I don't know what to say. It's the timing of it. It's the fact that you can say what you like about last night, but that's an important game for us. It just is. It's a very, very important game. That it really is. And I was a bit nervous when I seen that lad, but we'll talk about him later. But fair play to him last night. Admittedly, did they have a shot on target last night? I can't think. He made one save, didn't he, that was subsequently offside. So it was okay, but it leaves a very bitter taste in your mouth that he's gone there, to be quite honest. It really does, especially, it just does. I'm sorry to have to say it. It really does.
But then on the other hand, and just quickly before I let Alby say his piece, in a sense for us, it's a bit of a win-win situation, because we'll have clause after clause after clause inevitably on if he does well and if Swansea does well, then we'll get a bit of money for it. So I'm there sort of torn between two mindsets of, I really want them to fail because I hate them a lot now, but then again I also want them to go up this season, next season or something, because we'll get a lot of money for it and we'll benefit from it. So I don't know. It does stink, but it's a move that makes sense for everyone, I think. So long as we get the right replacement in. That's the main caveat. If we don't get a good replacement in, then it's an awful decision and the board needs sacking.
I'm quite philosophical about it. I'm trying to be objective about it, because the difference between losing the manager at the start of the season to Swansea and losing our goalkeeper is... I think it's a totally different situation. In fairness to Swansea, the transfer window's open. They've got their own agenda to be had, and they've needed a goalkeeper for a while. And you've got to bear in mind that 2 different managers have come into 2 different squads that they haven't yet built. Liam Manning's come into MK Dons. How do we know that he even fancies Andrew Fisher? Russell Martin clearly still does. And they've got every right to go and bid for him. And to be fair, they had every right to take Russell Martin as well. We said when we spoke about Russell leaving earlier in the season that we wasn't pissed off about the fact that he's gone because he's entitled to step up the ladder. We were pissed off about the fact that it was just on the eve of the season. We can be pissed off about the fact that it was on the eve of that game, but I think we've got to confess that if we were playing, as Dan had said, Fleetwood or any other team in the lower end of League One that wasn't them, I don't think we'd be as melodramatic about it. I think it was just so nervous going into that game that any sort of weakness makes the fan base nervous. But having said that, if we'd said to Swansea, we'll let you have him on Wednesday, I don't want a goalkeeper who's mine somewhere else. I want a goalkeeper in the net, who we had last night, who's desperate to play and desperate to impress with the club that he's representing. So, as Dan said, it's a win-win in some sense, because I think we will have a goalkeeper by Saturday, hopefully. And if not, we've got a goalkeeper who's proven he's got the monkey off his back now, where he's played his first league game, kept a clean sheet, and we'll see again how he goes on Saturday. I genuinely wish Fisher all the best individually. I don't wish Swansea any success, and I hope that crash and burn, to be honest, but I hope he individually does all right, because I don't think he's done anything wrong here. He's got himself a championship move, and I think he's generally more suited to, regardless what the league is, I think he's more suited to Russell Martin's style of play than he is to ours. He was playing here more as your traditional goalkeeper, whereas he was being sort of treated like a League One Edison from Man City when he was playing under Russell Martin. So if he can play that style of football there, then I'm sure he'll succeed. If we get a goalkeeper in fairly quickly, then I think we can just move on from it fairly quickly, to be honest. But until then, it is a bit of a worrying point. But I'm fairly philosophical about it.
I have got nothing against the guy personally, and to be quite honest with you, I wish him all the luck in the world, because like you say, he's 23. If you can get a move up to a higher league and play a better standard of football, good luck to you. But I'll say this, that 2008 semi-final defeat to that Johnson Spain Trophy, they've really taken that to heart, haven't they, them? I mean, what did they say? Revenge is a dish best served cold. That dinner is absolutely freezing, isn't it? Because they are just pissing me off. They really are. There's no need for them to be like that. I don't know why they've taken against us. I can only think it was that night when Drew Broughton scored that goal, and we went to Wembley and won the cup. So I don't know really what to say about them. And here I'm going to say something, and you guys will think that's why he's not in the football business. I wouldn't deal with them. I would be so petty now that I would just turn round and say, no, we're not interested. But we can't. It's okay to say, bigger clubs can say, oh, well, you go and train with the kids then, if you throw your toys out the pram because you're, angling for a move. We can't do that. I can fully understand the situation we find ourselves in. It is a lot of money, and you're hoping that, Liam Sweeting's got it about him. It's not come as a surprise, did it? They didn't turn up and, Monday morning and say, we'd like to buy your goalkeeper. That's been on the cards for weeks, hasn't it? So you're hoping that they've identified someone, and it's just a matter of waiting for the money to come in before we can make a move. But I wish, it's like you've said, Alby, I've got nothing against Fish. I wish the guy all the luck in the world. I say good luck to you. 23, you've got to move to Championship. Good luck to you, mate. But them, I can't understand why they're doing what they're doing, And you don't know whether this other talk about getting for O'Reilly is just all their fans just being wankers, or if they genuinely are going to make a move for him,
It's a case of Russell Martin, again, just not trusting the wider football world, I think. Because when he was here, he did bring in some other players, yeah, but the main people that he brought in were basically his mates, like with Cameron Jerome, Andrew Sermon, people that he knew, that he trusted. And it's the same sort of thing. He's gone up to Swansea. He knows and trusts the players that he had here. So he wants to bring the players that he had here over there, because he knows that they have worked for him in the past. Whether they'll work in the Championship with stronger opposition, with less sort of like room for mistakes and that, I don't know, but I can see what he's doing. I still hate him for it, but I don't know. It is what it is. It's football, isn't it? People move on. They have these people that they trust, and they'll try and bring them in if it will benefit the club.
I was going to say, could the argument not be had for similar for when we had Tisdale? Because we raided Exeter. I'm just, on the top of my head, I'm saying we brought in Moore Taylor, Simpson, their whole coaching staff, really.
Chelsea have scored, if you're interested.
This is right, last week all over again.
As I'm watching it out of the corner of my eye. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, we brought in Simpson, Moore Taylor, the whole
Ryan Harley. Actually, it was
Ryan Harley, and I'm sure, and then by the January window, we brought in Wheeler, who I know wasn't from Exeter, but he was an ex-Exeter player. You know what I mean? So we had a similar sort of thing when that happened to us. Again, I think he's got his goalkeeper now. Fuck off. You've gone to a higher league. If you didn't want to manage these players anymore, then why did you fucking leave? It's as well. You've got probably a better scouting network there. You've got probably more money available to you. Maybe not. I'm not saying a massive amount, because obviously they've probably got a bit of financial trouble to some degree, but probably more easy to sign better players than, say, we would have managed if he was still here.
To be fair to us, Alby, about what you were saying, what we didn't do to Exeter, we didn't say to Tisdale with less than a week to go, would you like to come here, mate? He'd already been served, more or less served notice by them, hadn't he? We didn't take their players on the eve of arguably their biggest game of the season. So, I mean, everyone knows that when a manager goes to a new club, they raid their old club. It's just what happens, isn't it? I mean, just get used to it. It's just, if Swansea had to come in for him without what had happened at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have been particularly bothered. It's just the fact that it's them and it's what's happened with Martin, really, and that's just... I don't hate them in the way that I hate Wimbledon or Celtic, but I just think you're just like I don't know, really. And the fans are bigging it up. Oh, we've taken your goalkeeper. It wasn't that long ago, they were a Premiership club, and now they're thinking, they've got an average League One goalkeeper, and they think it's, oh, look at us, we've taken your goalkeeper. Mate, 3 or 4 years ago you were a Premiership club, now you're boasting that, you've taken like a goalkeeper off of Milton Keynes Dons. There you go. That says everything if you ask me, but hey-oh, what can you say?
Just to end on it, it's obviously frustrating given the fact that we don't like the bloke in the club that are currently doing what they're doing to our squad. What I find quite interesting, and I've only just thought about this while you've been talking about managers raiding other clubs. Since Liam Mannon's been here, we've not even seen as much of a transfer rumour of him wanting any of the players that he worked with at Lommel. Isn't that quite...
The only previous player that I can think of is Connor Coventry that he probably would have had at West Ham.
Yeah,
but then that makes sense to us as well, because he's just had a Championship move. It's not quite worked out, so moving down to League One makes sense.
And that's the sort of signing we would have made under any manager that we've had before, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's of course it's annoying he's gone. But again, if we have a new goalkeeper in, and I said this to somebody last night in a bizarre kind of way, I actually think even in a January transfer window, I think goalkeeper is probably one of the easiest positions to cover that you can get, because every club has 2 or 3. You can only play one. Breaking news, you can only play one goalkeeper. So every team has got a goalkeeper that they need game time, depending if they're frustrated or whatever. So we could get a good loan in from a Premier League or Championship club. We could get a goalkeeper who's performing well in League 2 if we want to pay the money, or even a goalkeeper in League 1 if we want to pay the money. We could get an old lad and complete random example here, but someone like a David Martin, who's a third choice goalkeeper, 35 years of age. He's still got a good few years left in him, who's experienced, would come cheap. I think the difference between that and like a striker, for example, is if the club that's selling knows that he's an asset in the sense where he could score 10 to 15 goals towards the end of the season, they're going to ask for a lot of money. But if they've got a goalkeeper waiting around who is in reserve, like we had with Lee Nichols last year, for example, although he went for a free, but you get where I'm going with that. If good money comes in for him or a good offer, the goalkeeper's likely going to want to move, and the club's probably going to have to make way for it. So I trust that we'll be able to get a decent one in, even if it's a young lad from a Premier League club or something who needs a loan or whatever it may be. I think we'll be all right in terms of finding a replacement. Just whether they're good, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I don't think we'll struggle to get a keeper in. I mean, I'm not going to say keepers are 10 a penny, but they're not as difficult to... Is that my dinner? My dinner's here. You guys talk amongst yourself while I grab my dinner.
Well, I've just literally seen on Twitter now that there's quite a few websites with the same article saying about Blackburn trying to get Matt O'Reilly, and they're saying it's 1.7 million and could offer a player swap. But when you try and click on the article and try and find out who the player swap is, my computer security is warning me off because of cyber hacking.
Oh, don't get involved with that, do you? I've got fish and chips, so yeah. I'm sorry about that.
But that is good news, because if I think I'm pretty resigned to losing him actually this window. But if other teams are coming in and they're starting to put bids in, then maybe we can get a little bit of an auction going.
Yeah, they can stick
sort of try and drive up his price.
I've got to be honest. If Matt O'Reilly goes, I want him gone as soon as possible so we can get a replacement. I don't want this to drag on. I don't want it to be something that goes down to like deadline day or something. I want it done as quickly as possible. I trust the recruitment team in terms of who they can go at to get replacements. I mean, we haven't even mentioned yet. Since our last podcast, we've already got a player in and we've seen him live and he was brilliant. Yeah. So I trust whoever comes in will be maybe not as good immediately as a Matt O'Reilly, but still effective. I mean, Matt O'Reilly's not Lionel Messi. He's a very, very good player. But when you jig your system around and things like that, if you've still got Scott Twine playing and Kasumu coming back from injury, Josh McEachran and Ethan Robson, still got good plays in that area. All you have to do is replace him with a half-decent footballer and we should be all right. You know, I was about to say he's not the sort of player who generally wins us games, but he fucking won the other night, didn't he?
Yeah, no, he is an excellent player. But I've literally just thought now, if we sell him and it is like a late one, how would you feel about? Like, we've got Kasumu, we've got Ethan Robson, we've got McEachran, as you've been saying, like two of them playing together, and potentially Connor Coventry coming in as well. It wouldn't be the end of the world if we do just sort of like get the money later on in the window. But again, like, I trust our scout team. I reckon somewhere on Liam Sweeten's computer there is a spreadsheet of every single player in our squad and about 3 or 4 replacements that he would like. So I trust our scouting team. Any of these players that leave, I'm not overly worried because they've got their history of being able to replace them pretty decently.
The one I'm worried most about is Harry Darling, because I think he's the glue that holds that defence together. But I don't think that will. I really don't think that will happen. But yeah, is it worth changing the pace a little bit and moving on to the fact that Theo Corbenu, Contral,
let's just call him Theo.
Vossier, whatever his name is, Theo from Canada has come in from Wolverhampton via Sheffield. Shall we have a mooch around that?
They didn't seem very happy, did they, the old Sheffield? They were furious that he'd left them in the first place, but that he'd come to us. They didn't seem very chuffed, did they? They rated him very highly. And for what we seen last night, I thought he was better than good. Well, no, he wasn't better than good. He was better than... Let's just say he had a good debut last night. I really did. I mean, his shots were a bit weak, I would say that. But, yeah, he was good last night. So I was chuffed. I've never heard of the guy. I don't know hardly any footballers that don't play for us or Rangers, so that's about it. So, had you heard of him then, Dan, before he arrived?
I hadn't heard of him, no, but it's going back to sort of the reaction of the Sheffield Wednesday fans quickly. It's always a really good sign when sort of the fans of the team you're getting players from, they aren't sour about it, sort of like laughing like how bad he is, like we are at the moment with Fisher and basically anyone Swansea won. But they're genuinely angry at themselves for letting him go, or like in their case, or like for having him basically being dragged away. Their reaction really boosted my enthusiasm for just watching him play, and actually watching him yesterday. I really, really like the look of him. He's got his end product needs a bit of work, and obviously this is just everything I'm about to say is based on one game because I wasn't at Hillsborough earlier in the season. But he reminds me a little bit.
Here we go. I told you to hold this last night, and this is one thing. But you might have listened to last night's podcast ahead of this night's podcast. This is it. This is the moment.
Go on, Dan. I'm sitting back. Go, tell us who you think he's like.
He reminds me a little bit. And bear in mind, I'm not the only person to say this, because I was talking to somebody that I've not seen for a while in the queue at halftime for the bar, and I was about to basically say this exact thing, and he said it first.
I'm excited to find out who it is.
He reminds me a little bit of Daniel Powell, but skillful. And honestly, I really don't mean. I know what Daniel Powell's like with this fan base. Like, I really liked him when he was here, but given how strong he was while he was running directly at defenders, and he's the first winger in a while that I genuinely, I reckon I'd trust him pretty much every single time to just get past the defenders to absolutely skin them. I really think we've got something special on our hands. Like, there's that one move, and I think it was the one where they ended up getting their man sent off for. Where, I don't know if any of you remember Gareth Bale years ago in the Copa del Rey final or something like that, where he ends up sort of running halfway into the stands and back on the pitch. He did something similar to that last night, and it was at that moment I was genuinely like, in my head, wow, okay, we've got someone. He's pacey. He runs at defenders. He's got skills. He needs a bit of work, but I mean, he is 19, so that's obviously
to be expected. Is he 19? Is that all the age he is? He's not lasted very well, has he? If he's only 19, God, it must be a hard life in Canada.
I think he's 19. I might be completely wrong, but yeah. But I genuinely think we've got someone extremely special on our hands.
He needs a lot of work, but I guess that's why Wolves have sent him out on loan, isn't it? To develop him, hence the fact, that's why they do it. He seemed really enthusiastic last night. Sometimes you get like loan players and, they couldn't make it any more plain that they just don't want to be here, but it looked like the opposite from him last night, I know that was a big game and it's a good game, it's a good game to make your debut in, but, getting back to Daniel Powell was a one-trick pony, wasn't he? He could cut in from the wing, and 9 times out of 10 it gets snuffed out, but that 1 in 10 where it went in, you're thinking, bloody hell, Daniel, that's alright. That time when we played, I can't think, who was that team that, was it Derby that Neil Lennon used to manage when we played them in the Championship? He scored that night, was it? I can't think who it was. He scored Bolton. He scored that night, and you're thinking, oh, well done, Daniel. But I'll be honest with you, Dan, I hope he's not another Daniel Powell. I got to be honest.
No, but then as I said, I really rate Daniel Powell, and he was probably the best one-on-one finisher that we had at that time. But it's more the fact that he will actually sort of like run at the defence, I think. And maybe I'm just misremembering Powell, I don't know. But like Corbeanu yesterday, he ran at those defenders, and we've not seen that for a long time. We've not seen proper out-and-out winger genuinely just have a go and run at the defenders. Normally, we'll sort of, if we've got space, we'll run into it, or we'll get the ball, we'll come back, we'll sort of like recycle the play a little bit. But no, yesterday I was very, very impressed with Corbeanu, and I was also very impressed when he came off, Scott Twine rushing over to him to tell him to go our way around the stadium rather than towards the empty stands.
I didn't notice that, yeah. So you want to get on then to last night? Because I've been saving it to the end, I've got to be honest. So we're happy with him coming here. We're resigned to probably O'Reilly going. We're not that fussed at Fisher's going, it's just where he's gone. So that's the ins and outs so far on the Milton Keynes Dons transfer window. Right, last night, I'm going to laugh now. Man alive, they are a shit football team, aren't they? They are a poor team, they are. I'm not saying it because I hate them, which I do, but they are in the shit if they keep playing like that. They really are. From a purely objective point of view, they've got absolutely nothing up front, have they, I mean, how old is Dean Lewington? He's what? He's 35, 36? And how old do you think that guy was that he was marking, you know? And he just absolutely... He absolutely just... I mean... He nullified that guy, didn't he, last night? He really did. I mean, I know he's probably...
Sorry, John, which one are you on about? They're number 9 or they're number 10?
They're number 10, that little Hobbit-sized creature. He looked quite young, didn't he, him? Well, difficult to tell with a Hobbit, and he's probably about 95 and considered a teenager in Hobbit years, so I'm not sure what to say, really. But what I'm saying is, and equally as much, if there's one man in that whole stadium that was up for that game more than anyone else, even in, you know, those lads in the stand, it would have been Dean Lewington, wouldn't it? I mean, it just would have been. You can say what you like, but you know, he hides it well, but he doesn't hide it that well, does he, to be quite honest? I don't think he's fond of them, is he, to be quite honest? But, I mean, they were just they were shit, weren't they? They really were. I mean, I wasn't surprised. In fact, if anything, I thought they were maybe a bit better than I thought they were going to be, you know? But,
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, of course.
Because this is quite important. Are you, right, in one word only, are you telling me you thought they were shit?
Yeah, I thought they were shit, you.
Right, so why is their club telling me that they had that they were denied a battling point and they were absolutely phenomenal second half?
I have read that. It's just... What can you say about them? I mean, that's just how they are, isn't it? They didn't even say her name, did they? Did they say her name in the match report? I bet they didn't.
They did, yeah. They have to now.
I mean, honestly, all joking aside, I mean it. And Dan can testify because I was stood next to him for the entirety of the game. I kept saying how bad they were, and I turned around and I said there were moments when they were attacking. I said if he did this and instead of doing that, if he had done that or instead of doing that, like there were moments where perhaps instead of having an extra 3 touches, he might have been able to shoot when there was an opening against a goalkeeper who'd not made a league appearance all season. There were crosses that barely, if at all, beat the first man. No, they didn't do anything. I'll tell you what, I'll give them one. They had that shot that just went past the crossbar. Just towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
That was it. Other than that, they had that offside thing that Franco did well to save. But again, it was offside, so even if Franco didn't save it, it wouldn't have counted, so it can't count towards the statistics. And then when we had the ball, we passed around them like they weren't there. And if you look at the highlights, I've watched the first half back, I've not watched the second half back. There were more than one occasion where we absolutely skinned their play, be it Corbin or be it someone else, that left their players for dead. They were rubbish, and I don't just mean that because they're them, although it makes it feel better because fuck them and all that sort of stuff. But you guys can agree. How often have I said on this podcast recently how annoyed I've been at us not putting games to bed? That game was put to bed on the moment that goal went in because they were never getting back into that. They were atrocious. If you're listening, AFC Wimbledon supporters, and I'll address you as AFC Wimbledon supporters just so you don't get mixed up on who I'm talking about, your team are fucking shit.
If their management team had anything about them last night and with what sort of happened to us on Monday, they would have said, as soon as you get the ball, you just have a shot because this is his first, he's making his league debut, he's the third choice keeper, just absolutely hammer him every time. But I don't even think they've got that in them to I mean, did they have a shot on target? Just that one that was offside that old matey saved, that was it. I can't think of
apparently they had one according to the stats, but I genuinely can't remember it.
I don't really remember them doing anything. I remember
they had one sort of move, and the guy that I sit with every home game, he was the one that mentioned it when Ollie Palmer went off. They had one move, and it was to try and get the ball up the field towards Ollie Palmer, as if he was like an Akinfenwa sort of player. So then, when they're 1-0 down, bear in mind they've not done anything all game, and they should have just absolutely peppered Franco's goal. They take their only sort of goal threat off. And I don't know, I hate them, so I found it funny, but I didn't understand why they were doing that. It seemed a bit like I don't know, like a Gareth Southgate sort of substitution, which just you're thinking, why?
You said before the game, Dan, that you and I were having a chat as the teams came out, and you said you had no clue, not even you've never even heard a single one of their players on the bench, and you barely heard the first 11 that were playing. I thought their number 4 was pretty decent. I can't remember his name, if it was Hartigan or whoever. I thought he was...
He was a dirty bastard, that guy.
When I say pretty decent,
he was
I don't mean...
He was a dirty bastard, that bloke, that number 4. He was forever... He was one of those kind of, shove you out the way and then, kind of remonstrate with you. He was a dirty bastard. I don't know if he was a good player, because like you say, I've got zero objectivity where they're concerned. They're all wankers, and that's just how it is as far as I'm concerned. So you've come to the wrong guy here. Me slagging them off for being, rubbish. I'm just as bad, except it's for us. So sorry.
I turned and then I said to Dan at one point, and it's interesting that, right, we've played them 11 times. I think we've drawn once. Well, I'd say, right, we drew twice if we're going to count the League Cup game where we drew and we beat them on penalties. So let's just say we'll give them an extra draw, right? 11 games, drawn 2, lost 2, and we've won the rest. And I said to Dan during the game, they have played no matter which manager it's been, be it Neil Ardley, Glyn Hodges, Wally Downs, Mark Robinson, or is it Mark Robinson? I don't even know who he is.
Mark Robinson, yeah.
Mark Robinson. They've played exactly the same way every single time. And the only times where they got some sort of joy out of it was when they had a Lyle Taylor up front, who was a good striker at this level, or they had an Akinfenwa up front, who is a nuisance at doing what he can do well. But even those two aren't the greatest players at this level. But I know that we played against Piggott once or twice as well, but to be fair, he scored last season, but they've never consistently had a threat that's caused us problems. They've always played the same way. They're so fucking frightened to have a go, and if that's what they're watching every week, then God forbid. I mean, I don't even say God forbid, because I hope it's worse every week for them fucking horrible bastards. But shit me not, they were fucking abysmal.
He was in the stands last night, wasn't you, Lyle Taylor? Apparently,
he was there. Yes,
he was telling us
starting the.
He was telling us we know what we are.
I think it was the "you know what you are" chant.
Yeah, well, I can tell you what we are
on Instagram or whatever.
And to which we could easily reply, I'll tell you what we are, mate, beating you because you're shit. That's working. But you stand up there, take the moral high ground. You've been had to put up in that corner because you can't be trusted as a fan base, and I'm not exaggerating. That's why they're in that corner, because you can't trust them. So, bring an ex-player. He can put it on bloody the internet, concrete roundabout this and all that kind of stuff. You're a shit team, mate. Your ex-team are shit. We beat you. You could barely muster a shot on target with a third-choice goalkeeper. That says everything you need to know about them. They're a appallingly badly coached team, they really are. And they've got League 2 or non-league journeyman players from what I could make out last night. How on earth they continually manage to just hold on... League 1 status is absolutely beyond me, because I only ever really see them once a year, because, I will go away if we can still go, but, you see them once a year and they are shit. They were appalling last night, they really were. I mean, we didn't really need to do much, did we? Because they were just fucking useless, I'm sorry, that's my objectivity where they are concerned. They're appalling.
Prediction. They could drop into the bottom 4 on Saturday, right?
Yes. So they've got Morecambe. I think it's away, and Morecambe are 2 points below them.
Right. So they can drop into the relegation zone on Saturday. They'll stick with him for a week, and then they'll lose next week as well, and they'll fall deeper into the relegation zone. Then they'll sack him. Then they'll bring in generic ex-Wimbledon Football Club / AFC Wimbledon associate, who will do well enough to keep them up this season, give him the job full-time, and they'll be in exactly the same situation this time next season, where it all happens again. They'll bring in whichever dud is next. I tell you what, fucking Laurie Sanchez.
Oh, the one that applied for our job?
The one that applied for our job and gave us waves every time we sang Laurie, you're a Don when we played Barnet in the FA Cup in 2011 at Underhill. They'll do Something along them lines, because that's all they have. They won't be adventurous. They won't try and get like, and I'm swallowing my pride when I'm saying this, please forgive me. They won't try and do a adventurous, let's give Russell Martin the job type thing, who's got a vision, even though he's one of our players. They won't go for a Steven Gerrard like we tried that one time. The most adventurous I've seen them go for was Alan Pardew. That was when Glenn Hodges got sacked last year. That's as adventurous as they're going for.
The only reason they went for him, Alby, is because he lives down there. That's, they think, he lives quite near, and suddenly, he's going to be their manager. Well, he's not, is he? Because no one's going to, a manager of that standing would not go to a club of that standing, if that makes any sense. They're just, it's difficult for me to be objective about them, because they're very badly run from what I can make out. They can't be that badly run, or they wouldn't keep staying up all the time. But you just think, just fucking get relegated. Would you just fuck off and seriously? But it is what it is. What do you think of our guys?
Can I quickly just?
Oh gosh, yeah, go on. If you're going to slag them off, yeah, go for it.
One of the best things, I can't remember if it was when they appointed Glyn Hodges or Mark Robinson. They had Alan Pardew on the sort of the interview board. That would have actually been a really, really interesting sort of management thing for him if they could have convinced him. But no, they're the best team in the world if the month is April. Other than that, they are just absolutely appalling.
Speaking of things that aren't appalling, and speaking of things that are poorly run, I'm going to talk about something that wasn't poorly run. This is such a really bad tangent.
I don't run about the houses there, mate.
Don's action. Can we talk about them, boys, please?
Let me tell you about Don's action last night from a man of a certain age's point of view. When I decided to start this podcast again, which was 4 years ago, the main reason that I wanted to start it, well, there's other reasons, but one of the reasons was that I genuinely felt that the club and the fans had lost their way a bit. I thought that there was a massive disconnect between the club and the support. And I thought to myself, well, if I restart this podcast again and me and Tony can, get it up and running, he's got good connections, you never know what might happen. And I genuinely believe that as a podcast, we've done our bit to get the fans to re-engage with the club a lot. Those lads, I don't know how many of them there are, but I cannot praise those lads highly enough. Not just for last night. They're young lads, aren't they? I don't know how old they are, like late teens, early 20s. I remember when we interviewed them on this podcast 3 or 4 years ago. They were so young, they had to wait till one of them could drive, because none of them could drive, get a lift to come across here and be interviewed. What they done last night, that lad, is it Ollie? Is that his name, getting on those flags? You think to yourself, there wasn't a lot of... Right, it's not like Crystal Palace, is it, where they're just a nuisance, but, I've got nothing but admiration for that young lad. I really have. Really, really, I say to him, well done, mate, because you don't need to do that, It's a load of hassle doing this. Just this podcast is a load of hassle. What he must do, he just must be run off his feet doing what he does, because I know how much it takes to do this, and this is one night a week, so I say good luck to him. I thought that last night was brilliant. I really did. I came out of the bar. I'd been in the Cowshed bar. I was chatting to someone who I used to work beside I've not seen for a while, and I came out, took to my seat, glanced across to the right, and there it was, all those things, and I thought, well, it was brilliant, that. Yeah, that's alright, well done. So that's what I'm saying. I say, give that 10 out of 10 last night. It was brilliant, that. And like I say, I got nothing but admiration for those lads doing that. I really have. Equally as much those other lads that do that other podcast, that young girl that does the videos, everyone that just... The support seems to have decided that, basically, the club are fucking useless, and if we don't do it ourselves, it won't get done. So, there you go. That's my... Right, I'm going to eat more fish with very expensive, tomato sauce on it.
So my views on that was, I decided, I normally sit in the East End, and I decided to go to the Cowshed for this game, and I'd heard about the display and whatnot, and normally I'll have a pint up until pretty much the players are ready to kick off. I did what they asked. I got into my seat 15 minutes before kick-off, played my part in the display, and you know what? It felt like the whole of the cowshed were doing that. I later did see the picture that it was only, of course, block 11, but everybody who was playing a part of that was having fun. There were groups of young lads in front of me who were only about 15 who were jumping up and down. I'd never seen these young lads before. So if they were coming just for that game and had as much fun as it looked like they had, it reminds me when I was a young kid and I first went over to the cowshed, and for whatever reason it was, just having a laugh with the people that were there at the time. Before you know it, 15 years down the line, I'm in podcasts on a Wednesday night with people that I've met through going to the Dons. It's a small step, but that took a lot of organising. Can you imagine when we play a big team in the FA Cup and the whole stadium sold out and you can get the whole cowshed looking like that with a little bit of work and communication with the club? It starts with that shows there, that small little section of people that were doing that, and the enthusiasm of the people that were there doing it shows that there's room for more when it happens. And if young lads and young girls and whoever it might be who were there and enjoyed that as much as I did as a 26-year-old who generally finds flags quite cringy, I'm not going to lie, I had a lot of fun with that sort of thing, and it was so well organised that if it happens again, it's really gonna kick off. And I'm just hoping that we continue, as you said, continue doing things as fans, because the club are pretty useless in trying to cater for what they think young supporters want. So hats off to the Dons Action boys for that one, and please, hopefully this is an indication to them that it works, and when we do get a big cup draw next time, or we do have a large attendance inside the ground, set something up like that again, because it will work. It really will. Dan?
Yeah, no, I basically echo everything you've said. Like, I had a lot of fun. I'm also one of those that I'd probably find that sort of cringy if I was looking at it like from the opposite end or something. But being involved in it, being in and amongst it, it was absolutely brilliant. And I think because of the occasion as well, because we ended up winning, and like we were up for it. We were up for it that section. It was a joy to be a part of, and it was. Because of all the different colour flags, I had a white one where I was. When their bloke got sent off, I reached over, I grabbed a red flag, and I just gave that a little bit of a wave as well, just for the fun of it. It's like it's probably a little bit cringy, it's probably a little bit embarrassing, but just in the moment, I was proper enjoying myself. And yeah, massive credit to the Dons Action lads, because they've done so much for the entire fan base, really. Even if it is sort of like just that small section that's properly getting involved right now, keep going. It will grow. It will grow.
If I'm allowed to, we'll just end on this. When the red card that happened and he started waving red flags, I turned around and I said to you, Dan, that I can already hear what Twitter will be saying and their fans will be saying about how cringy it is. You know what, actually? That makes it better. It actually makes it better, it being maybe a little bit cringy, or maybe a little bit plastic or tin pot, or, like when we had them clappers for a free Nando's, if we beat Lincoln that day, that'd have felt great, because that's what we are. We're a club based on irony. Their fans were singing 1-0 down and a man down midway through the second half. Franchise get battered everywhere they go. And you know what the franchise responded? Franchise get battered everywhere we go. What are you going to do back? We live on irony, and we always have. We've always lived on irony, and forgetting the ironic side of it. Continue that work, please, Dons Action boys, because as I said, when that cowshed is full, for whichever time, we've shown that we can fill the stadium. So when we do fill the stadium again, they might need a little bit of support with it, but if they have an idea in hand, then please stick to it, because it's shown it can work.
Did they have a banner as well, or just the flags?
There was a couple of banners that they had, sort of like the top part had one part of a phrase, the bottom part had another part. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was something like "Welcome to Milton Keynes, like home of the real Dons," or something like that, wasn't it?
I think it was.
Yeah, it was a good time. Pleased for them, like you say, just to have the commitment at that age to do something like that. Nothing but admiration for that lad, I really have. I don't know if he does it all himself. He seems to be the one that, only ever one guy seems to be involved. I don't know if his mates still do it or whatever. I have no idea, but good luck to him. Right, before we wind this podcast up, who thought Peter Kioso was a bit shit last night when he came on? Just me? Or just me, the guy sitting behind me, my son, the guy sitting beside him, us three, or what? Oh, he was poor last night, wasn't he? I mean, he really was.
His first 2 passes probably could have costed us goals if they were half good, but yeah, he wasn't great. It was definitely a good substitution to bring off the bench, but it didn't quite work out probably how he wanted to individually. But I mean, just while we're touching on Kioso, I thought Tanai Watson last night was absolutely...
He was brilliant last night. He really was. I'd have given him man of the match if it hadn't been for Franco. I mean, I think that was a sentimental choice, but the actual man of the match was definitely Watson. I thought he was outstanding last night. He really was. Albeit with the caveat that he was playing against a pile of shit, so maybe they just, maybe he flattered to deceive because they were fucking useless. I don't know what to say.
I thought the entire back 6 were actually really good. I thought Harvey, despite his... I think there was 1 or 2 sort of like dodgy dives and dodgy sort of like Lewingtons or whatever, but he had quite a good game going forward, I thought. And then the rest of the defence and Franco, they were very, very good. I thought it was we weren't clinical, and that's been a case for weeks and weeks and weeks. But we didn't need to be. And I can't think of one player other than maybe Kioso that actually had a bad game. I thought everyone seemed up for it. Ethan Robson seemed well up for it when he was in some of his tackles. I thought Warren O'Hora was excellent, and I think at half time I specifically mentioned Darling and Lewington. Mo Isa is part of the reason we scored the goal because he chased the keeper down and proper unsettled him. So yeah, I think every single one of them has reason to genuinely be applauded and be like well done, well played.
I thought again, Isa played well last night. I just thought he was a workhorse. He got involved, used a lot of energy in terms of I think he caused their. These are the sort of things that you can only describe it in the sense of how you watched it. And I just watched Mo Isa run around, get on the ball, and cause their defence were shitting themselves. Like they weren't prepared for what he was offering, and him chasing the ball down to the goalkeeper and playing a massive part in scoring the goal. To me, that's a strength of his, and I hope we play a bit more to his strengths, because I actually think over the past 2 or 3 games he's actually played really well. He scored against Accrington, of course, and he only ever seems to get mentioned when he's played crap. He seems a bit of a scapegoat character recently, and I don't wholly buy it. I think he's got a lot to offer us, and I thought they all played well, to be fair. The only reason why I want to pick him out individually is because I think he deserves it. I think he deserves a little bit of praise, because he's had a rough couple of weeks in terms of how the fans have perceived him, in my opinion.
His goal on Saturday was actually really good. If you watch it, how he's got the ball, he's run into it, and he's fooled the keeper by going through the defender's legs. It's a really, really well taken finish, and we need a little bit more of that from him, but he doesn't deserve the sort of how he's been treated, because he has been making sort of some decent runs. He maybe isn't fast enough for some of the balls that have been playing through, or maybe he's not being spotted as much as he probably should be. But I saw him at Morecambe and I was really impressed. I saw him the goal on Saturday, as I've literally just said. I was impressed with that, and I was impressed with him yesterday as well.
I think he suffers from his price tag, doesn't he? Because if he's reputedly to be a record signing, you're expecting a goal a game, aren't you? Which I don't think you're going to get that from him, are you, unfortunately? Right, let's move on. So anything else you want to say about that last night, or do you just want to laugh for 5 minutes about how shit they were? Because I'm alright with that.
The only other thing of note that I remember is their coaching staff being up to their usual tricks. I can't remember if I've already mentioned that or not.
Yeah, did he knock the ball out of someone's hand when he was about to take a throw?
Honestly, at the time, from where I was stood, and it might have been sort of the side of goggles or something, I genuinely thought that was still on the pitch. I thought Scott Twine had sort of somehow managed to keep it on, and he was about to sort of run up and like counter attack, and then their coach had just like sort of kicked the ball out of play for it. Only watching the highlights, I realised it was sort of more in the technical area than on the pitch. But even so, that's just their coaching staff to a T, really, isn't it?
Them, isn't it? That's just what they're like, isn't it? They're just a bunch of like, they're radio guys last year when we played them. Remember, they just done everything last year except mention what was actually happening on the pitch, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. I thought that was great. So that's just what they're like. They're just, they think everyone should love them, and that they can do no wrong because they were wronged and all that kind of stuff. I couldn't care less what they do, they're fucking idiots, those blokes. If they're a bit more professional, they wouldn't be in the perilous state that they find themselves in at the minute. But I just hope I hope they keep that shit up forever, because that guy can knock the ball out of one of our players' hands. We beat you, mate. That's it. You can bring an ex-player in the stands. You can have him shouting, you know what you are. We beat you, mate. Simple as that. Don't mention us on your on your commentary. Do you know what? We beat you. That's just how it is. We beat you. You're shit. There you go. I'm having a chip to celebrate.
It's worth mentioning as well that having read the Wappites after the game and their crappy fucking 1996 forum that they just can't be bothered to improve, there was a lot of people having a whinge, and somebody put up the video of what they perceived was a penalty as well. So I'm noticing that there was a few of their fans who paid for the game on iPlayer.
Oh, give us some money. Oh, that's nice.
But listen to our commentary. So whilst they listen to our commentary, they'd rather listen to the biased franchise than the radio W Don commentary, because they're absolutely fucking tedious, because they want to know what's going on in the game, these supporters, and not some sort of, we're not going to mention them because they don't exist crap, because that doesn't actually cover anything. So I thought it was quite ironic them lot having listened to Luke Ashmead and Stephen Gleeson for the entire 90 minutes, those who watched at home.
He was quite excited, Luke Ashmead, when the goal went in. Someone sent me a link to it today and asked me if I could include it in the podcast. Unfortunately not, because it's BBC copyright, but old Luke was ever so excited. Have you seen that? You heard what he said? It's worth listening.
Someone's put it on a tweet, so what you should probably do from the podcast Twitter page is
link to
retweet
that tweet,
or quote retweet that, because it was brilliant. It just shows that even if he is a Southampton fan properly, he's a Dons fan. He's a Dons fan in the back of his head, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, talking about their fans and their radio, on their stupid forum, somebody genuinely put, and I'll quote it, I'd forgotten how unprofessional Radio W Don is. Usually listen to the opposition commentary, but no way I'm doing that tonight. Fair enough if they didn't, but if even their fans, with their biased commentators, hate listening to it, what does it say about them, really?
I mean, that time we played them...
That'd be like Three doing commentary on a game, wouldn't it?
No, that time we played them last season, and we were still in lockdown. They did... I mean, those two blokes didn't even talk about the game. They didn't talk about what was happening on the pitch. They just didn't. You think to yourself, I mean, you're really childish, you guys. I mean, I hate Celtic. I just can't fucking stand them, for obvious reasons. I hate Wimbledon, for different reasons. But you just, I mean, like I said a minute ago, if there was less of that fucking about like that kind of thing, and they tried to be a bit more professional, they wouldn't find themselves always looking over their shoulder come April to see if they're going to get relegated. Be more professional on and off the pitch, or rather, no, just keep doing what you're doing, because that would, that'll make me much, much happier if you just keep being complete and utter children about everything. So there you go. Right, I'm definitely moving on. We've done an hour and 5 minutes, which is about 20 minutes longer than I thought we were going to do. These podcasts, I just can't keep a grip of them. Right, who we got on Saturday?
I think I'm going. I'm pretty sure I'm going. Yeah.
You going, Alby? Bit far.
No, I'm working.
Oh, mate.
I was actually planning to go, but I've had to work Saturday so I can get Thursday off for a funeral. So that's the world I'm living in.
That's not good, mate. Sorry to hear that. Right, in case anyone knows, where is it? Where is it? Portsmouth we've got? Because we've talked about it, we've not said it. I don't know what to say about them. Where are they at the minute? Are they above us, below us, or whereabouts?
They're currently below us. I don't know by how many. I'm going to get the table up in a minute, but they're on a really, really good run of form.
Oh dear. That's
so
not good, is it?
they are currently 8th. They've played 2 games less than us, and they are 6 points behind us.
Right.
But I think it's something like they're unbeaten in 10, and it's like they've won 6, drawn 4. But they did lose last night in the Papa John's Trophy.
Ah, right.
So I don't see. Yeah, there might be something, and they've not played a league game since, well, for about 2 weeks it'll be. But
that's going to be difficult to make a judgment on what's going to happen there, isn't it? Really, you know. I mean, just my whole focus has been on last night. Really, I've not really looked ahead. So really, I don't really know what to say there. You know, I really don't. I mean, I find that guy with the bell annoying. That's about as much as I can say where they're concerned. You know, that is a good reason not to go there, to be quite honest. But he'll be there rattling his bell. Dan will be there wishing that he was stopping rattling his bell, but it is what it is. So, that's it. I am stopping this podcast now, because I'm just like well over an hour. Unless anyone's got anything else to say about Wimbledon, you can now is your chance to say it.
Bunch of lady bits.
Yeah, they've been giving me 10 seconds. We know what we are. You don't have to keep reminding us what we are. We are the franchise. We know what we are. And we will always fucking beat you. Even if you manage to beat us somehow, we've won. Look at what you could have had, you scummy.
Well, there you go. That last word's obviously had the beep factor on it. Right, as I said earlier on, Alby here did a whole load of interviews pre-match, at half-time, and I think there was a couple after it at full time. So I'm going to put that out as a separate podcast. It's only going to be about, 20 minutes long, I think. So there'll be 2 podcasts this week, but this one will be out first, because obviously I'll have to edit it all together, the Alby stuff. But it's worth listening to. I'm on it, and Dan's on it, so there you go. It's worth listening to just for us and some other blokes. So there's that to look out for. That's probably going to be going out either Thursday night or more likely, I think, Friday. So that's it. So we will be back next week. Hopefully Dan will have gone to Portsmouth, because I'm definitely not going to Portsmouth. So there you go. Alby's working, and yeah, that's us done. So this has been episode 20, and we will be back next week. Right, bye.
Bye.